Important question for you guys as we start here today. How many of you guys have been to Costco Sample Hour? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, we got a couple hands up. Good. Okay, cool. So you guys know what abundance looks like, and the rest of you guys are missing out. So my wife and I, every Friday, we both have off of work, God bless for that, but we do all of our grocery shopping together, that kind of stuff. We run our errands. But yeah, usually I'm the guy that pushes the cart, but not at Costco. There's too many important things going on. I got to go get all the samples. But there's people handing out any little thing that you could possibly imagine. And for some reason, they let you get seconds. Sometimes they'll let you get thirds. It's just a fun time. But no one in there is thinking, better take just one or else they're going to run out forever. No. You guys know that there's probably at Costco whole pallets of this stuff in the back, just waiting for people to come and take all that they would want. So people come, laugh, share, and definitely circle back for seconds or thirds. But this, my friends, is a picture of abundance, knowing that there is always enough for everyone. An abundance mindset. That being said, though, a scarcity mindset, to contrast it, walks through life like all the samples are gone. It's a sad time, I know. But it says this: if I give too much, there won't be enough left over for me. But an abundance mindset, it says this, that God's got more in the back. He's the supplier, not just the sample station. But when we live and we give like that God is the supplier of all that we need, we are confident in God's provision, open-handed, we discover the joy of giving abundantly. So this morning, we're in the middle of the Giving Challenge, a 40-day challenge of intentionally working our generosity muscles. And each week, we've been looking at a different way to live open-handed, as we remembered from Matthew chapter 6, our theme verse for this series. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And if you look at the weeks, we've looked at giving happily, we've looked at giving eternally. Notice they say heart. It's clever, I don't know. But this week, we are focusing on giving abundantly. And to do that, we're going to look at our mindsets. Because what happens on the inside, what happens in your mind, affects how you live on the outside in your actions. So today I want to invite you to trade a scarcity mindset, which is often our default, and to look toward having an abundance mindset. And generosity, it's the practice where that transaction, that trade, it happens most naturally. So today we're going to walk through 3 movements that help us trade scarcity for abundance. We're going to recognize, we're going to rewire, and then we're going to respond. They're there in your sermon notes if you want to follow along that way. If not, hang out, listen, learn something, sip coffee. Here we go. First thing, we want to recognize what we already have. A gentleman named Michael Easter, he wrote 2 books, The Comfort Crisis and Scarcity Brain. He pointed out that modern life has insulated us from discomfort so much that we have lost perspective. In fact, most of us live with more safety, more security, and more access to resources than 99% of the people who have ever lived in the history of the world. You ever think about just how many things you take for granted on a daily basis? Like your bathroom routine, like how many stuff is just present there, like how many industries, all of it, or just going to the grocery store, how many different things are just available for us to have for a relatively low cost. For most of human history, people lived one bad harvest or one failed hunt away from real hunger. Scarcity, it wasn't a concept, it was a daily reality that people faced. Our brains learned to grab and store as much as possible when we had the chance. It was this survival instinct that we all possess. Of course, as I said before, the world has changed. We can walk into a grocery store and choose from a dozen cuts of meat. We can sample produce from not just 1, not just 2, but 5 separate different continents if we really want. And we have snacks in every single imaginable possible flavor. We can order almost anything from our phones, and it arrives magically at our doors. Still, that old scarcity wiring, it runs in the background saying, you might not have enough. So we chase, we stockpile, and we clutch tightly, even when we already have way more than enough. Now, part of the job as a pastor is we get to do premarital counseling. And well, for every new couple, there are usually 3 top things that are stressors. 1 is wedding planning, 2 is relationships with the extended family, and of course, the third one is money. This is why the first step toward abundance is awareness. It's recognizing what we already have. Take a look at one of these very familiar Bible verses. You guys heard it earlier, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. Turn to your neighbor and say, you lack nothing. No, very good. And now turn and say, I lack nothing, so I need nothing for Christmas. No, I'm kidding. Okay. But genuinely, either that verse is true or it's not. And if you believe that that's true, it changes everything. When you recognize that you already have enough, you can stop living like life is a constant scramble to collect more and more and more. Think about this again. So, globally, if you make more than $31K a year, did you know you're in the top 5% of income earners in the world? If you make more than $60K a year, you're in the top 1%. You're in the top 1% very likely of income earners in the entire world. You might not feel rich, but that's because scarcity keeps whispering, it's not enough. Friends, this morning, you have more than enough. And if our God is your God, in which He is, you can trust that He will take care of you. Second point, we are to rewire our minds. Rewire our minds. We just recognize what we already have, all the abundance God gives us. Second is to rewire our minds, rewire our thinking. Romans chapter 12, verse 2 says it like this. That should say 12, it says 2. My bad, I don't know who put this together. But do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing, rewiring, however you want to say it, of your mind. The pattern of this world that we live in is scarcity. It says, get all you can, keep all you can, and protect it at all costs. And this is why our closets overflow to our garages. Our garages are full of all these tubs of different stuff that we have, and these tubs end up going from our garages into different storage units that we end up paying for monthly. We get a lot of stuff. But the rewiring of our mind invites you to see life differently. And it's through the lens of God's abundance. When you rewire your mind, you stop filtering every decision through the fear of running out and instead start filtering it through God's faithful provision. It's the shift from, what if I don't have enough, to what if God is who He says He is and I can trust He provides for my life. Now, I'm grateful for it, but I learned this truth pretty early on in life. I didn't know the term abundance mindset. It wasn't articulated that way, but my parents were instilling healthy habits in me as a kid. When I was a kid, I got this regular allowance. It wasn't that much. It was $1, a couple dollars, something like that. But my family made sure that I always divided it up into different sections. We had these little plastic containers. It was like plastic Tupperware, but it had a little pig on it, so it was like my little piggy banks. I thought it was cute. Anyway, but I had 3 of them. One I had to put 50% into, so for every dollar, 50 cents went to savings. 40% I could actually spend the money on, so there you go. Go buy a candy bar, James. It was fun. But 10% always went to the church. And when you see it divided up that way as just like dimes or quarters or something small like that, I remember distinctly, even as a kid, whenever I would put that 1 dime into the church bucket, it'd be like, that really is not that much. And believe it or not, when you consider all the blessings that God gives us, is the exact same today. Sure, I make more than $1 now. I make $2. I'm kidding. But compared to all the ways that God has blessed me, all the ways that God has blessed you, it really is not that much. This habit taught me something powerful. What I give isn't about the amount, but it's about the trust behind it. Compared to all that God freely gives me, my offering is small, but it's an act of trust. And that trust rewires our hearts. Rewiring your mind, it's not just a spiritual thing. It's something that God has genuinely designed your brain to do. Scientists, they call this neuroplasticity, if you want your fancy term for the day. But this basically means your brain's ability to form new pathways and to break old ones. Think of your brain as a lot like a field of grass. To help illustrate this, how many of you guys went to trunk or treat a couple weeks ago? Anyone? Okay, cool. Recognize some of the kids? Maybe? All right. But I was driving the hayride all around the property. But what I would do is, especially once it got dark, I would just follow my tire tracks from the couple of times I would go before. Our brains function a lot like that. We continue in the habits that we have, the habits we have already dug into our lives. So, that being said, if our default is scarcity, the scarcity mindset, what do you think we're going to end up usually doing? Hoarding, collecting, trying to accrue as much as we can. But here's the hope, guys. You can make a new trail. It feels awkward at first, as the grass is tall and untrampled. But every time that we give, every time you trust God instead of just worrying, you end up walking a new path. And over time, that old trail will fade, and your new path, the path of generosity, becomes your default. This is what Romans chapter 12 means by renew. It literally means to make new again or to renovate. To renovate your house, it's fun, I don't know. But when you repeatedly practice abundance thinking, you're not just making this spiritual change, you are physically reshaping your brain to trust God more. If you're struggling to think of tangible ways to do it, here's 4. I encourage you, practice gratitude daily. It could be as simple as waking up every morning and saying 3 things you're grateful for. I am grateful for my family. I am grateful for running water. I am grateful for breakfast that I had today. That's the first way. Give first. I encourage you, don't give God your leftovers. Give him your first and your best. It trains your mind to trust his provision before you secure everything else for yourself. Third is to speak faith out loud. When worry comes, and worry always does, say scripture aloud. It's one thing to say it and think it when you pray. It's like an internal monologue. If you say it out loud, it actually registers in your mind more. Something as simple as Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. It just resets how we think about what we're encountering. And fourth, I encourage you, celebrate others' wins. Scarcity says, if they win, I lose. Abundance says, if they win, we all win together. Celebration weakens envy and it strengthens generosity. Here's a rewiring the mind story I have for you guys this morning. 2 gentlemen named John Cortines and Greg Balmer. These 2 Harvard Business School graduates, they both had 6-figure incomes. Cortines was a savior working toward early retirement at the nice age of 40. I know, pretty nice. Balmer, he was a spender. He lived life large. Both gave a solid 10% to their churches, but they admitted with the ridiculous money that they have, it wasn't much of a sacrifice and it didn't bring much joy in their lives. So these 2 men, they decided to study generosity together at Harvard. And what they discovered completely rewired their thinking. After interviewing hundreds of different graduates, many wildly successful people, some of the most successful people in our world today, they found something surprising. The happiest people aren't the wealthiest people. The happiest people are the most generous. They found that the usual question, when it's flipped from how much do I need to give to how much do I really need to keep, changes your life. And for that number, how much they needed to keep was around $100K a year. And beyond that, everything else went straight to kingdom work. They adjusted over time as life changes, kids go to college, that kind of stuff, but they kept the same finish line. As income grew, so did generosity. They found what Jesus promised, that joy and abundance aren't found in accumulation, in a scarcity mindset, but trusting God's provision and releasing the excess. When you rewire your thinking, you start to believe that generosity isn't about waiting until you have more. It's deciding that you already have enough. And their story raises a question for all of us. And it's not just about money, but about mindsets. It's if I truly believe that God is my provider, at what point can I say I have enough? Most people never ask that question, if I have enough. But without that finish line in mind, without that clear target, we just keep moving the goalposts more and more. The price just gets more and more. When I make a little more, then I'll feel secure. But if you never end up defining enough, you'll never reach it. You'll keep living like you're running on a treadmill, even when God has already given you more than you could ever need. Friends, recognize you are ridiculously blessed, and then rewire your mind to live like it. That's the first 2 points, recognize and rewire. Third point is respond. Respond with open hands. As we heard in our third reading for today, from everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. If God has given you much, and he has, he also calls you to do well with what he's placed in your hands. Here's a real-life example of giving with abundance. This summer, I had the privilege of going on a short-term mission trip to Tijuana with a team of other people. In fact, if you were on that trip, would you do me a favor and please stand for me? I see a couple of them out there. Couple. There's another. Can we give them a big round of applause, guys? If you have questions about the trip, I encourage you, check out the ministry table in the back after worship. Amazing stories. I'll summarize it quickly, but what they did, I mostly just tried not to get in the way, but they made 3 houses for at-need families. We partnered with a local mission there, and they identified these 3 families who were truly in need. One day, they also ran a vacation Bible school. It was a lot of fun, and like I said, I did my best not to get in the way. But when I was getting ready to go on the trip, I wasn't sure what really to expect. But the poverty that some of these people lived in, it truly put my life in perspective. When I came back, I was just grateful to have running hot water. And the houses that we made, they were by no means fancy. It was mostly plywood, nails, 2x4s, that kind of stuff. But what seemed small to us was life-changing to them. I'll never forget the face of this one mom when she saw the house completed. We handed her the keys. We nailed a cross just like this one right above her door. And she stepped inside her home for the first time with her 3 kids. This mother of 3 finally had a safe roof over her children's heads for the first time. It was a beautiful thing to see. What a reminder that even small things in our hands can become abundant through God's provision and giving generously to those around us. This is what giving abundantly looks like. It's not about the size of our gift, but the spirit of our trust. A gentleman of the 20th century, his name is Stanley Tam, he donated over $140 million of the proceeds of his company. This is in the 20th century, by the way. That's a lot of money. He once said this: "You can't outgive God. The more I release, the more he provides. My job is simply to be faithful with what's in my hands." Here's the truth for you guys today. God rarely puts new blessings in a closed fist. But when you open your hands, he can pour more in than you could ever hold by yourself. Not to stockpile it, but to share it with one another. We talked a lot about money today, but this principle, it goes far beyond finances. We give abundantly because God first gave abundantly to you. At the cross, he didn't give 10%. He gave everything that he had. He cried out, "It is finished," tetelestai in the Greek. It meant paid in full for all time. He paid with his blood, which you'll receive in communion today, with his life, which is shared openly for you. He gave it his all. You don't have to earn God's love because you already have it. You don't have to gain his blessing because you already have it in your new life. Abundance isn't about just dollar amounts. It's about living so the world sees your trust in God's provision. Open-handed, joy-filled, willing to pour out what he's poured into you. You may be financially blessed to be able to bless others, or you may not. But in one way or another, you will be blessed. Because when you live with open hands, you are living like Jesus did. Here's the truth we unpacked here today. If Jesus is your shepherd, you lack nothing. If he's your Savior, your debt is paid in full. And if he's your Lord, you live under an open-handed God who delights in providing for his people. Question is for you guys, will you live like that's true? That's where our framework comes in. Recognize what you have, rewire your mind to see what you can through the lens of God's abundance, and then respond by opening your hands so God can use you to bless others. Two challenges for you this week. One global, the other one local. First is Operation Christmas Child. Through these little shoe boxes, the gifts you give create a global impact. The gifts we give through these boxes might seem small to us, but they make a world of difference to children in need around the world. Second, next week is the Community Harvest Food Drive. I encourage you today, how full are your pantries? Imagine if you were struggling to have anything in them at all. Next week, you'll see brown paper bags as you come in and out. The local food pantry around here is seeing record numbers. We collect for this often, but let's blow them away with the generosity God inspires in our midst. It's a way of saying, I recognize that I have more than enough, and I'm releasing it to someone else so they can be blessed. Imagine if everyone here brought enough for one meal, brought just one shoebox. Now, some of you will bring plenty. Some of you will bring $100 worth. Some of you will bring way more than that. I encourage you, do it. Sacrifice. It's good for you. There will be hundreds of moments as the result of the generosity of these two events where people feel seen, feel loved, and feel cared for by God. It's abundance in action. So I encourage you today, give of your abundance. Let's be a people that recognize what we've been given, rewire our minds to trust in the giver, and respond by giving freely, because you can't outgive the one who has given it all. This morning I mentioned the Tijuana mission trip. We're going to be watching